Alright guys, today we're going to be taking a look at AMD Ryzen again with the R7 1700. We're going to be comparing numbers side by side in these benchmarks with the SMT on versus the SMT disabled. So for people out there that are not familiar with what SMT is, that is simultaneous multi-threading, which is very similar to Intel's hyper-threading. It's basically what takes the processor with 8 physical cores and gives it 16 total threads of processing power. And a lot of people had theorized that maybe a lot of these games have not been optimized as well for AMD's SMT because they've been working on Intel's hyper-threading for so many years. So a lot of people wanted to see this side-by-side comparison to see what happens when you just go into the BIOS and disable SMT. Now, chances are most of you out there going out to pick up these processors will not be doing this, but it's just a point of debate that a lot of enthusiasts really want to look at, so that's what we're going to be doing here today. Just a quick little bit of backstory on the system we're using here. I am using the Gigabyte Aorus Gaming 5 motherboard, and I got Corsair Vengeance DDR4 memory overclocked to 3000 megahertz. That is the XMP profile that comes stock on this RAM kit. Other than that, I tested all of these games at 720p on low settings with the GTX 1080. That's also overclocked. I've got that up with 200 megahertz additional on the core and 300 megahertz on the memory. Initially, the first benchmark that I had loaded up was Metro Last Light, and I actually saw an advantage for SMT disabled, and that got me very excited going into this video. I was like, wow, if we disable SMT, we may actually see a boost in performance here. You're going to be seeing that benchmark a little bit later on in the video, but in the rest of the benchmarks here, that just really didn't hold up. The only two games where I personally noticed an advantage sometimes, not even all of the time, but some of the time, for having SMT disabled was Metro Last Light and Sniper Elite 4. I saw both of those games getting more FPS at some points in the benchmarks, and also, Watch Dogs 2 was the other one. At some points in that was getting more FPS with SMT disabled versus enabled. So it was rather interesting, but I think you guys will be able to see here in the side-by-side comparison that if you are running a Ryzen processor, there's really not much benefit to disabling SMT because most of the time here we are seeing the processor getting less FPS when we have SMT disabled. So hopefully that kind of answers that question for people out there that were wondering about the SMT, how well it's optimized in these games. So you guys will have the information here now in the side-by-side, so you can just kind of use that as a basis of comparison for your own discussions to, you know, whether or not SMT is worthwhile on AMD, how well it's optimized in different games, because it does seem that there are certain games where it is optimized better. The ones I mentioned there, Watch Dogs 2 and Metro Last Light, those games do utilize all of the cores, all of the threads in a lot of titles, so it seemed to have an advantage in those games, but in other games, not so much, as we see here, sometimes losing by 10 to 20 FPS just by having SMT disabled, but other times it's also very close neck and neck. But I think what the takeaway here is that if you're running one, just don't disable SMT. I mean, unless you're just curious and you want to see what happens, I mean, you can. It's not going to hurt anything to go and disable simultaneous multi-threading if you want to do your own comparisons and see what happens with SMT disabled, but hopefully this video kind of puts that to rest for you guys that were debating about whether or not it was fair to test with SMT on. So yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and leave these benchmarks here up and running for you guys that are curious to see all of the FPS analysis side by side, and I'm going to get out of here and go enjoy my weekend, and I hope the rest of you guys do the same, and hopefully I'll see you later in the week with a lot of PAX East coverage. I'm going to be picking up the 1080 Ti up at Micro Center in Cambridge, Mass, on Friday, so if you guys want to meet me there, I'll be out there waiting pretty early for the 1080 Ti to release. I even got permission from Micro Center to film in the store. They had saw my 1080 Ti video and they emailed me and they were like, hey, are you going to come to our store and plan on filming or whatever? We'll make sure we email the manager of that store so that they're ready for you. So I've got full permission to go and record inside Micro Center. Really excited for that and the 1080 Ti release. I think I'll probably doing some benchmarking in my hotel room up in Boston, so that should be really interesting, just because I'm not getting a sample from NVIDIA, so I got to go out and get my own card. So it is what it is. You know, I've been looking forward to the 1080 Ti, and seeing the price on it is just amazing. So I can't wait to get that sucker in my system and start running some games maxed out at 1440p. I just got an ultra wide monitor that's 3440 by 1600, and my 1080 is struggling with that resolution in games like Rainbow Six Siege. It can't hold the 60 FPS maxed out, so I kind of need a 1080 Ti right now so I could do proper performance analysis I feel on that display. So come on, NVIDIA, let's get those 1080 Ti's. And yeah, I'm going to get out of here. Once again, enjoy your weekend, guys, and I'll catch you next time. Ciao.
Oh.
Tucson is once more a land of peace and order.
What can I do?
Keep an eye on the left. Clear shot! I gotta reload!
Sweet.
Shoot to the dead! Nobody take a deep breath! Fight tactically. That's a clear shot!